I got interrupted by an emergency. So I just started, this is part 2, okay? This is part 2 because I'm not gonna start over again. So this is part 2 today, Tuesday, June 7th. All right, so I'm gonna start over with Admiral STAVRIDIS. His new book has 9 stories in it about crucial decisions that were made in battle, some that were successful and some that were not. It was a great interview. So the interviewer said, how do you make those decisions? How do you arrive at that in such crucial moments or a moment? And Admiral said, it's hard to explain. In that crucial moment or moments, he said, time slows down. Boy, did that catch my attention. He said, it's like there's a space to access. I don't think he ever said the word intuition, but certainly that's what he was talking about, and getting messages, getting advice. This reminded me so much of my own process, that time slows down when information comes in. I related to this, and I want to share it with you, as you're all probably working on your own sense of intuition and building it. And then he gave some advice, and he said, it's also important to be able to change one's mind, because sometimes you're wrong. You know, and it takes a big person, an admirable, to say that. He's a very special man. I listen to him whenever I can. He's so wise. And now we're going to move on to, well, it's good evidence / kindness on the street. I have a big story for you today, very dramatic. It's going into my book because there's a chapter on my book where I'm putting real life good evidence stories. And this is a real life story, and it happened on Saturday, okay? I went to Ralph's Market. You know me, I'm always at Ralph's Market. It was a different Ralph's Market. I parked, started getting out of my car, and I looked, and I see an elderly man, very well dressed, stuck. He was pushing a cart. The cart had a lot of groceries, and he was like stuck in the middle of the parking lot, and he couldn't lift his leg. And I went, whoa, something's really wrong. So I locked up and I headed towards him. At the same time, another man noticed it and headed towards him too. So the guy, the man, the stranger, got there first, and we worked very hard to get this gentleman out of like the parking lot traffic, find out which was his car. And he was sort of in and out of consciousness a little bit. Sometimes I felt like he understood what we were asking him, and sometimes there would be this blank look. We figured out his car. We got the key. We said, okay, we're gonna drive you home. And he lived only about a mile away, thank goodness. And I said to the nice stranger, I said, I will follow you back to his house. We'll get him inside, and I'll drive you back to the market. So we teamed here. Took a really long time for us to get this gentleman, but in the meantime, I asked him his name, and his name was Kirk. Let me describe him. Kirk was about 5'9". He was wearing really good clothes, blue jeans, but like kind of an expensive sweater, and he had blue suede shoes. He had really nice shoes. He had a thick hair of white hair, and very clean, pristine, shaven. And when he looked at me, I'm not kidding, his eyes were like blue, like Frank Sinatra. He had like the most stunning, I just went, oh my goodness. Anyway, it took a long time to get him in his car because he really lost, his leg was paralyzed. So we get him out of the car. We were trying to call his son, who was supposed to be at the house. Now, why his son let him go grocery shopping alone, I don't know. So we get him in the front door, which was challenging. And now the son comes from the back of the house, it was a nice house, to meet us. And me, the old hippie, got a whiff of pot. So he was in the back smoking some weed. It was very nice. It was kind of We got him to sit down. I gave him his cell phone and all his keys and everything, and we got him some water. And now he was more like alert. And he looked at me and the stranger's name by this time is Dean, D-E-A-N. Dean was about like maybe in his late 30s or early 40s. Unbelievably nice person, full of empathy and care. I mean, wow. We just attracted each other for this emergency. And so I left my card, Dean left his information, and the Kirk said to us, "Oh my God, you saved my life. You two really, you saved my life. You saved my life." It was very special. When we got outside, Dean and I turned to each other immediately and said, he had a stroke. Well, turns out Dean's longtime girlfriend had a stroke 9 years ago, a very bad stroke, and she still has disability. She had a very high functioning job as a television executive, and she had to quit it. She had to leave her job. She never ever bounced back. So he had experience with strokes, and he pulled the son aside and said, "Look, I have some experience," and we recommended that they get him to the hospital, but we were strangers. We couldn't make this son do anything. Well, the son came out on the porch before we left. He did thank us, and he told us my dad was in special forces for years. So there was that tough thing about the old guy, even with a stroke, really tough. He didn't even want help at first, but he had no choice. And then he said, yeah, he scared the hell out of me when I was growing up. So my left ear said, oh, he hates the old guy. He hates his father. I just knew it in a minute. And he said, and he's moving into assisted living at the end of the month, and he's very unhappy about it. So we got that bit of information, which I thought was interesting. And when I got all the way home, I went, I bet Kirk is a MAGA. And we just went in and saved a MAGA. I just had the strongest feeling. He could not have been a liberal. And I know, I could just tell by the guy that I was with, Dean, he was not a Republican. I just have to tell you guys, it was a stunning experience. Dean and I talked, drove him back to Ralph's. We walked into Ralph's together, chatted for a minute. We didn't even exchange phone numbers or anything. We just said, I said, I know I'm gonna see you again, and I know I'm gonna remember you. And we just said, wow, this was a really wild thing that just happened, and we went on our separate ways. I thought two things, and it's gonna sound a little grandiose, okay, that's the word, but I went, God, I think we were chosen to be the two to help this man. It just felt that way. And I also had the feeling he wasn't going to live much longer. It's still resonating with me. The other thing I want to share with you is I went to the farmer's market on Sunday because there's a restaurant that's like right adjacent that has pancakes only on the weekends, and they're the best pancakes I've ever had in my life. If you live in Los Angeles, the restaurant is Jones on 3rd. They only serve pancakes on Saturday and Sunday, and they are the best pancakes. So I went there for pancakes, and then I decided to just look at the fruit and see if there was any really good fruit, and I got like amazing plums. I love plums when they're good. I got home and I went, there could have been a shooter at the farmer's market. People were just dressed in shorts, and they were so relaxed, and there were children and baskets and dogs, and it was just beautiful out there. But I had that thought, and I thought, I don't know if I want to go back. Isn't that strange? I'm just sharing that with you. It was like, I've never had that thought in my life, but you know, it can happen everywhere. I'll tell you what I didn't do today, but I promised to do on Friday, because I'm going to come back on Friday after the nighttime committee hearings. I simply forgot about the quotes. I forgot. And I'm sorry, I apologize. But Friday I'll have the quotes for you. So today, I'm just gonna say, Expect surprises. Make sure you're safe. Peace and blessings. I remember one other thing. In my book on good evidence that I'm rewriting, I have sections, like there's monster good evidence, like the time I got $2,700 from my credit union that I had no idea was in there. Monster. Then there's everyday evidence. Then there's contribution. We did contribution evidence. That's what Dean and I did. But we were Kirk's good evidence. I just want to take a minute to explain that to you. Working hard on the book, and it's going to come out in the fall. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry this is in 2 parts. It's really weird. We're still in the shadow period of Mercury retrograde, so I'm just going to play it off to that. But every once in a while, some emergency comes, and my phone just shuts off. And that's what it did. Make peace, make memories. I'll see you Friday with some interesting stuff. And you take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.